Connection in imperfection. Connection in imperfection. Kelly Vandever.
We now begin the audience participation portion of our program. If you would, please complete the following sentence. If you're nervous about public speaking, simply picture your audience naked. Madam Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, and fully clothed audience members. Yes, that seems to be the most prevalent advice given to people that are nervous about public speaking. Is that not the most ridiculous thing that you have ever heard? Seriously. But to be fair to whoever said it, and I have no idea who said it, let's just assume that they had good intentions. Let's assume that they know that it feels really vulnerable to be up here in front of a group. Everybody's looking at you, people are judging you, and so that person's intent was to say, well, picture them in the most vulnerable way that you can, and then you'll feel better about being up here, being judged. But I think they missed the mark. What I think is that when you are vulnerable with an audience, when you're willing to be yourself and show your flaws, that people appreciate that. Today I want to share two stories with you to help illustrate my point. Because I believe there's connection in imperfection. First story. My son was 4 years old, and I went to pick him up from daycare. And his teacher saw me and said, "Oh, Kelly, I've got to tell you what Zach said today." You ever had one of those moments where like 1,000 things are running through your head? Well, I, in that split second, thought, well, I wonder what brilliant, intelligent, sensitive thing my son has said. And then she began her story. Well, Zach tooted, you know, pass gas. So I said, "Zach, you need to say, 'Excuse me.'" And he said, "No, I don't." And I said, "Yes, you do." And he said, "No, I don't." And I said, "Zach, when you toot, you need to say, 'Excuse me.'" And he said, "No, I don't. My mom never does." Okay. Yeah, so now that I've told you one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, how do you feel about me? Am I still okay? Do you still like me okay? You see, when you're willing to be vulnerable in front of an audience, they appreciate it. I didn't just do it for the humor, I did it to illustrate the point. Because when we're willing to be ourselves, people connect with us. We all know that we're not perfect, but sometimes when you're standing up here, people forget that. And they don't know how they're going to make that connection. But there is great connection in imperfection. Second story. It was several years later, it was February 2005. My son had grown up to be a wonderful young man. He was on the football team. He was cast in a major part in a play. He learned to say, "Excuse me." Things were good. Things were really good. Now, my son Zach has an older sister, my daughter Corey. Corey was then a senior in high school. And it looked like she was actually going to graduate. We were very happy about that. In fact, it looked like she was going to get good enough grades that she'd get the Hope Scholarship. So things were going along pretty well. She'd also been given the opportunity to take on a after-school work study program, so she only had to go to school half days. Now, my husband had gotten a promotion at work. He was getting new responsibilities. He was really enjoying that. And myself, I had been given new responsibilities on my job, and they'd asked me to start working from home full time, which turned out I really liked that idea. Well, so I'm working from home on this particular February day, and I hear my daughter come inside. I'm in the basement, I hear her come inside, and then she comes downstairs to the basement where my office is. And I noticed that she's standing outside my office and she's looking at this bookshelf, and I wonder what she's looking at. Well, at the time I was on a conference call. So I'm having my call, and she's still out there. She's still looking on the bookshelf. My call gets over. I make a header for the bathroom, and then when I come out, she's standing in my office. And she says, "Mom, can we talk?" And I said, "Sure, I've got like 15 minutes before my next call. What's going on?" And she said, oh, never mind. And then I started putting two and two together. And I said, no, it's okay. What is it, Corey? And that's when she looked at me and said, Mom, I'm pregnant. Do you ever have any of those moments where 1,000 things are going through your head? I'm not especially proud of the thoughts that were going through my head at that moment. Inside my head, I was cursing my daughter. How could she be so stupid? She knows better. I raised her better than that. I was blaming my husband, I was blaming myself, and then I thought, oh wow, what's everybody going to think about me? What are my family going to say? What's my friends going to say? And then a thought hit me, that regardless of whatever else happened, I wanted to have a relationship with my daughter. And I knew that the next words I said were going to be really important. So I looked at my daughter and I said, Corey, a baby is never a bad thing. Now I know what some of you are thinking now. So Kelly, how'd that conference call go after all that drama? The next few days and weeks were challenging. But my husband and I let our friends and our family know that we were going to be grandparents a few years sooner than we had anticipated, but things happened. What I expected was to get some of these looks like people were judging me, and I was so surprised. People were so, so kind. They were just amazingly gracious. It's when I really learned that when you're willing to be imperfect in front of other people, you really do forge a different, closer kind of connection. I share with you my story because you have a story to share too. There's something that's happened to you that somebody else needs to hear about so that they can make that connection with you and that they can have the better life. So I challenge you, discover for yourself that there is connection in imperfection.